Hello everybody and welcome to the Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel, live broadcast and subsequent podcast. Today we are talking to the one, the only Nick Kershaw, founder of the Impact Marathon series, who organises marathons all over the world alongside community projects that the participants become fully involved and invested in. So how are you today, Nick?
I'm super. I'm very excited to be joining you and catching up with you.
Awesome, thanks Nick. And first of all, before we start questioning you and grilling you, a shout out to our sponsors, Naak Sports Nutrition. They make energy bars, waffles and energy and recovery powders and real food purees in pouches, and coming soon, energy gels as well. So I'll get my hands on them soon and that will be very interesting to try indeed. I used the peanut butter and chocolate bar and the salted caramel waffle on my Coventry Way 40 last month. They're both really delicious and I'm looking forward to using some of the gels on Race to the King this June as well. So if you want to try them, use code WildGingerRunning for 15% off at uk.naak.com. And the link to that is in the podcast show notes and the film description below. So Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about the Impact Marathon series. I do want to find out a bit about you as a person, but first of all, I thought we should start with the question, what is the Impact Marathon series? Because it's quite different to most other trail races, isn't it?
It is. It's basically combining three of the things that I'm most passionate about, and that's trail running. That never changes. And then there's the travel and the opportunity to give people a different type of travel and really get to places that you never would normally get to go to and live in places you never normally get to be. So that my kind of travel where you end up in a place that you wake up and I don't know how I got here, but I'm happy I'm here, that feeling. and then creating an impact or catalyzing an impact, that is a better word, within the communities where we run. So there's a real connection between the running and the actual impact that it leaves in the community where we are. So I think this is combining those three into 1 week. And so you come out to Nepal or Guatemala or Jordan or Rwanda or Malawi or wherever. We have our next race. You come on out, you spend a week with us going around to different community projects. Sometimes we tie in normal tourism things. We go to Petra in Jordan because you can't drive past Petra and not go in.
No.
I tried and it didn't work. I was like, yeah. And then on the final day, no, exactly. And I've learned that lesson over the years. I've always been quite stubborn about, cool, maybe, I try to not include Petra, but you can't, you have to. And it's amazing because it gives a context and a history to the place that adds to the spirit of the week and brings the group closer. And then on the final day, everyone joins together. And although we say marathon, we've also got a half and a 10-kilometer distance. And it's a celebration. And we don't really time. And we just tell people to go out there, treasure every step and enjoy where we are. And yeah, in Jordan, it's through Wadi Rum. In Guatemala, it's on a live active volcano. We've got all sorts. We try and make a route that just tells a story and tells a story of the community, of the nation, and gives you that moment where you're not thinking about your personal best, you're not thinking about your splits or your times or anything, and you just go out there and you run with a group of people who've become your best friends.
Yeah, you're probably just thinking, oh, my shoulders are aching from digging that well for the community there. I'm glad I'm doing a leg day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you started off with the Nepal race, is that right?
Yeah, that was the first one in 2016. Yeah.
And what was the impetus for starting it? Like, what's your background? How did you discover running?
So I was working, I graduated 2010, 2011, and I was working in the city in London, working in a finance job. And I was, my first run itself was actually my boss told me to go on a run. I just had a really stressful day and I'd lost a big deal. And he just said, Nick, go for a run tonight. And I'd always loved sport. I'd always rugby, football, cricket, always been sporty. But I'd never done an actual, okay, I'm going to go out and run however many kilometers. So that evening I went out, I did 3.14 kilometers, hated it, really hated it. I thought that was terrible. My back hurt. And and then 2 days later, that was a Tuesday night, on a Thursday night, I went out again and did 5 kilometers and that was that. It was set and I was a runner and I loved it. And it became that kind of thing where if you had a bad day, you go for a run and it's just that bit better. And if you've had a great day, you go for a run, it's just that bit better as well. It just, it really elevated my life in so many different ways. and yeah, through that, I was getting more and more involved in different races, and but one thing I was always passionate about was connecting people with the impact they can make in the world. And again, especially when my life was finance and that sort of office job of tube office tube sleep tube office tube sleep, and I wanted to connect people with the impact that they could have as individuals, because we do feel like we donate. London Marathon, I don't know how many millions it was this year, but we donate to friends doing it, and then that's where the journey ends. And I think that's where the journey should begin, because that money changes lives. And that's the whole catalyst behind why we started Impact Marathon was, don't just fundraise, actually see where that money goes and come and interact, and you'll learn a lot and you'll support a lot, but also you'll come out of it knowing that something you've done in your life has really touched the lives of others. And that's something that we don't always think about, we don't always recognize, and we don't always appreciate. And life's a lot happier if we do that.
Yeah, definitely. And so talk about community projects. What kind of projects do you get involved with? Like, let's take Nepal to start with, the first project. What kind of things could people be getting involved with if they signed up to that race?
So the first project we did in Nepal was wild, and it was all led by the community. And it was a leap into the unknown. We had 120 people out on that first ever event, which was crazy, even on itself. I look back now, 9 years on, having done 23 more events since then, and I'm like, ooh, that was a lot. That was a lot. We had a lot of people come out to that first event.
What's the average number now then? Is it a lot smaller group now that you do?
Yeah, so I cap it at 35 now, and that's because it's just so much more powerful to have a group of people who get to know each other and love each other and support each other. And when you have that big group, you get cliques, and it's that much harder to take everybody on that same powerful journey. And 35 just has become that right number where we're not having to put 2-3 months of work into the logistics and infrastructure,
and like
so we can do more events.
Bus and like a big coach arriving in a tiny village or something like that.
That can often be detrimental as well. And so you've got to realize, like, creating projects where you're trying to have a positive impact, you have to be aware of the blind spots where you may not be having a positive impact. And so that's the other thing. And when you're visiting communities where maybe there's 30 people in the entire year who come visit that community, to suddenly bring in 100 is crazy. Now, early on in Nepal, we were in a community that easily could withstand that and more. And so their whole focus was, it was just after the earthquake and their water supply was gone. So the Japanese embassy had built a 65,000 litre water tank in the middle of the village, but no water. So we then basically, as 120 villagers, 120 impact runners, and over 2 days, we built a 5-kilometre water pipeline, all dug down so that during the winter it wouldn't freeze, and then not above ground. And then, so we did that. That was just wow. It took me. I remember as it started up, I got down to the start point, and everyone had been going about an hour at that point. I'd had to do a different meeting. I got to the start point. I could hear this just like noise everywhere. And it took me an hour and a half to walk the whole way along the pipeline to the front of it, as everyone was. It's just unreal. And then the next year, we took it to 3 different locations within the village. And then by the third year, the community had pulled together and they'd created meters in each of the houses, and every house had running water and the meter to mean they're all paying towards the maintenance of the pipe.
Wow, that's incredible.
Project and very hard to replicate, actually, is what I learned over the next years in different countries. You have to respond to what's in the community. I can't go in and say, we did this in Nepal, let's do it here. No, exactly. And you have to be really responsive to that. And so we have different ones in Guatemala where it's more focused on empowering young leaders to find a voice. Our job is totally different, where we're joining a Women's Day march that they've created, where the year before 12 people did it. This year, all the impact runners came, meaning the mayor got involved. And when the mayor got involved, 300 women got involved. And suddenly this group went from 12 to over 300. And now we're marching through Tecpan, which is a small, quite a large town in Guatemala. But the narrative of that story of women's rights in Guatemala and the youth were just like, look, we don't need you to be doing physical stuff. That's fine. We need you to put this on Instagram. All of you have Instagram. Tell people what's happening in Tecpan. That in Tecpan, in Guatemala, the indigenous women are now marching on Women's Day. And it was just like, wow, totally different angle on what the impact can be, and I have to be flexible to whatever that is.
Yeah,
And
really
that's
versatile.
been fun.
Yeah, that waffly versatile there. That's really good. Um, so the like that's yeah, they're so different. And I want to go back to the pipe. Like, do you
Yes.
have some engineering qualifications as well then? Like, who decides like, yeah, we're going to do a pipe. That's all well and good, but like, I don't know how to dig a pipe.
Yeah.
Do you know how to dig a pipe? Who helped with that?
I mean, I now know. No, but you work with local experts, so you've got the people who would be building that pipe anyway. And I think it's something really important
Ah,
when you're going overseas to do volunteer projects. Is we still employ the same people who would have been employed all along. The whole point is to bring everyone together in a celebration of an activity,
yeah.
not to take away jobs that we could just simply.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
But
want
you
to
just
create
give them
jobs. Yeah.
like a load of free labor. Like here's some free labor to speed it up.
Yeah, us do it together. Exactly that, and they'll end up with the same amount of funds at the end of it. But we will have all joined together, and the celebration of that experience will be a lot more powerful. And it actually happens. That's it. That's why I use the word catalyze rather than create.
Ah,
The community is going to put a pipe in, right? That's going to happen. What we're going to do is say it's going to happen now.
yeah.
We can make it happen
Speed it
now.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, the group in Guatemala is the same. So we don't. Again, now I have quite a lot of experience in doing water pipes, but we would still work. We've got an organization that we work with in Nepal called Smart Pani, and this year we were installing water filtration systems across 10 different schools around the community where we were. A different community now that we work in Nepal, and so Smart Pani handle all of the procurement, the planning, the expertise, the maintenance thereafter, everything. Our job is just to say we can make it happen now. Impact
Yeah.
will join in. Even the municipality put funds in as well, because it's everyone just like, right, we have this opportunity with the race to make progress. What are we going to do? And every year it takes maybe 3 to 4 months of discussions to work out, what's the best option, what's the most powerful option for the community, and what suits the event, and we have to go with it. And on that first morning of any project, I'm sat shoulder to shoulder with the impact runners, learning and getting involved. And I know that the first half an hour is going to be all a bit, oh crumbs, how do you do this and what do you do that? I know that, and it's cool. But then once you get half an hour, 45 minutes in, it's just one of the most special experiences you can ever have when everyone's joining together for a common goal. Like we know that, and so it's we've done. I think I said 23 events. I always have to count it all up again because it's been just over 9 years of doing this. So and there's so many different projects that we've been able to get involved in, and ones that have worked brilliantly at the water pipeline, and ones that we did some projects where a few months later there was a massive storm, and actually we've had to restart that project. Because development, it's not linear. It doesn't just go like you don't just do this and this. We've had volcanoes erupting on our land. We've had COVID changed a lot of the. We've had monsoons wipe out projects. So we have to be like cognizant of that, and just that's part of the story. It doesn't always have to be good news for it to be important news.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking that is an incredible amount of work for you. You're not just organising, like an easy sightseeing trip where we just go to Pet this day, and then we do the marathon at the end. And like I have organised races in the past. I know how challenging it is just to organise one race, but you're organising a tiny bit of sightseeing and all the community projects as well. It's a hell of a lot of work. How do you initially make contact with those community projects then? Do you have to go to Nepal and do a recce, or like go out to Guatemala and go, right, we want to be here. What is here that's happening? What can we be involved with? How does it all work?
That's pretty much it. I mean, Nepal, I landed with a backpack, and I'd left my job 10 days before. I landed with a backpack, and I hadn't known anybody, and I just got making as many meetings as possible. And from every coffee, from every lunch, you just hope for one more connection, and then you tend to find there's in any one country, and I actually do think it's the same in the UK, although we have a really large trail running community. There's a nexus of 5 to 10 people that will be really supportive and help you because they just love the sport of trail running. And you need to find those 5 to 10 people. And Guatemala was the same. Landed in Guatemala, I had one chap pick me up at the airport, and I landed in Guatemala. I didn't know a single soul. I just knew there was this guy, Victor, who was going to pick me up, and his passion for Guatemala was so huge. And through this race, actually, I met my wife, and we got married in Guatemala, and he was our
Wow.
translator at the wedding.
That's
So
amazing.
there's so many different kind of journeys that I've been on. But yeah, Guatemala, I landed there knowing that this guy Victor was picking me up, and now if I have children, they're going to be half Guatemalan, and
Oh
it's just like how
wow, that's
life is
incredible.
so crazy, right?
Oh, that's amazing.
Um,
When was that
yeah.
then that you did? Did you just decided to go to Guatemala as like, oh, let's try Guatemala for a nice place for a race? Is that how that came
How did
about?
that happen? I was at the World Travel Market in November 2015, and we were looking at a race in Central America. We thought it was a good place to consider, certain narratives around conservation. Guatemala came up because of the biodiversity of Guatemala, and we met some people at World Travel Market who said, "Yeah, come over. We've got 3 or 4 ideas, and we've got this
Cool.
guy Victor who can show you around." So I was like, I'd previously been looking at an event in Colombia, so I just flew up from Colombia into
Ah.
Guatemala. It was a crazy time in my life, and yeah, so I'd never been to Guatemala, and as we were coming in, I looked out of the window and I just saw this amazing volcanic crater lake.
Wow. Oh, Lago
Wow.
de Atitlan. Is that right?
It wasn't that way. It
Oh,
wasn't. It
okay.
would have been. It would have been Agua, which is the volcano that looks out over Antigua, the
Oh,
colonial
okay.
town, and it's called Agua because it's got a crater lake. I'm pretty sure it was that. When you just everything was new. Everything was new, and
Yeah.
we did look though at we looked at Atitlan as a place for the race. We didn't do it in the end, but it's still you never know. We may move it to there in the future. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. And then, like, how did meeting your wife come into this? I feel like this is a personal success story that we need to cover here.
Oh, bless her. She was working for the charity. She was the fundraising director, and that was February 2020. And so we met working on the race together on that, and didn't really talk. There's a photo of us just sat next to each other before we'd actually spoken. So we've got that up in our house now as like the journey that we would have gone on from then. So yeah, we just got talking on Instagram after the event, and then the world went into lockdown, and we carried on talking all the way through lockdown. And then when Guatemala opened up its airport, Letha flew over for a first date, which lasted 4 months because that
Oh,
was the
wow.
that was the Christmas we all got locked down in the UK. Remember, we couldn't get since you couldn't get home to Guatemala, so it was a really good job we got on. And now
Yes.
she's moved from Guatemala City to live on the coast of Pembrokeshire.
Is that where you
So
live now? Coast of
that's where we live
Pembrokeshire?
now. Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
how
been a
lovely. What a great
crazy
place to
journey.
live.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome.
I
And
tell her
so,
that regularly, but
yeah, this is a great place.
this is really good. Look at all the sheep.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you not have sheep in Guatemala? Oh, llamas, maybe. And so um, it's given us a really good flavour of the community projects there. But you've got races in Jordan, haven't you? I've seen there's one. So at the moment you've got the one in Nepal. There's one in Jordan too that people can sign up to right now. And then there's an Everest Base Camp one with Street Child as well. So what
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
projects can people hope to be involved with if they went to the Jordan one or if they went to the Everest Base Camp one?
So Jordan, we're working actually with the Invictus Games Foundation. Well, we did,
Okay.
last year we were working with them, which was amazing. So, and a real honour to work with such an incredible organisation. They brought out 10 wounded, injured, sick soldiers and former soldiers from their community to come and be part of the event. So
Oh,
we went and
brilliant.
visited with Team Jordan in Amman to get to bring in. That's a narrative that we've never had before at an Impact Race. So it was really beautiful and powerful, and the way that brought the whole group together was just incredible. And then we work with another organization called Green in the Desert, which is all around using regenerative farming and permaculture concepts to grow more with less, basically.
Okay.
Jordan is the second most water scarce country on earth. And one thing is improving water supply. The other is how do we make sure that we are feeding the nation with the limited water that's available, and that's where permaculture and natural practices come in terms of diversity of crop, in terms of how you harness human wastewater, grey water, all of these things into creating a lush element. This place is in 50-degree heat, arid desert, and just rocky ground, and it's a chap called Jeff Lawton and his wife Nadia who's Jordanian, and they just wanted to find where's the hardest place on earth to prove that permaculture as a concept works, that natural farming can work. So they went there and they spent 10 years behind closed doors building it and trying. And now you look out, you can, they've got like this restaurant a little bit high up, and you look down over it, and all you can see is desert, and then this lush oasis of calm in amongst it. So we work there, and they're building out. So they're using more of those methods to help the community all have their own home gardens that use those same methods as well, so the community can be self-sufficient and feed itself, which then has the added benefit that it's usually the women that are then selling the goods at market. It's the children that are teaching how to grow the home garden. So we get involved in those two elements, in there. So that's the Jordan event.
It sounds like it's quite it sounds like quite small and individual, but it makes a huge impact overall, and it really changes lives. It's really interesting, that project.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's actually one of if not my favorite, because of the depth it goes to, but also the amount that we learn coming home, and the way that you look at your own garden, or the way that you look at how you consume, and all of that interlinking. That's what makes it a really powerful project, is not just what we do and the support that we give to Green in the Desert, but there's so many things you can take home from that and go, hold on, we can shift this. And the other thing that I think is amazing, there's a chap called Sam who who was wise beyond his years, and he said at 13 years old he was so he was seeing all this negative stuff, and the future looks so bleak and everything, and when it comes to climate change, that was making him really anxious and scared. And so he started researching, and he found permaculture, and he said it just suddenly everything felt optimistic and possible. And you go into that place, and it isn't the doomsday stuff. It's like, hold on, all the answers we need are already here. We just need to harness them in the right way. And Sam, when he speaks, he has this wonderful piece, and my goodness, I just it makes you, it reminds you that we do have the answers, and change is possible. And the idea that a 13-year-old was searching at home, feeling low, and he found that, that's not what we normally find on TikTok, right? If we're feeling low, we find all the worst stuff. He found the best stuff. Yeah. And so he changed his whole life, moved to Jordan, and started working on that project. So I don't think he moved at 13.
So he was a British 13-year-old. He wasn't 13 and in Jordan.
Australian 13-year-old. And he's now, he now has a Jordanian wife and lives in Jordan. And then, the founders, Jeff and Nadia Lawton, they're just unbelievable. And then when you eat the food that they grow there as well, you realize this is just really special. And it's a really magnificent project, actually. It's one that creeps up on you. You don't realize how beautiful and powerful it's going to be. Yeah. And then you go there and it just, I get goosebumps. It's really, really special. I can't wait to be able to go back there again.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, no, that's great. We've just started in our garden, just been able to sort of get to grips with growing stuff. So I've got 4 potato things in a bag. We've got some carrot seedlings, and we're growing basil in a small, one of them really flimsy little greenhouses that you get from Homebase. In a covered over bit, because we made the mistake of making our own pesto. Sorry, this is going off a little bit off.
This is great. That doesn't sound like a mistake. That sounds really good, making your own pesto.
Yeah, no, it's a mistake though, because you can never go back to the shop bought stuff. So it's all shop bought, whether it's in a jar or one of them plastic tubs near the filled pasta section. It's just rubbish now. So now we're like, oh, it's so expensive, and it comes in all those plastic bags, the basil, doesn't it? Either in a pot with a plastic bag, or basil in plastic bags. So we're like, what can we do? Or so we just decided to buy a plastic greenhouse, but hopefully that will last for ages. And we're growing our own basil in there. And so I'll keep you posted. But that idea of permaculture and growing your own things just sounds like something everybody here in the UK could do a little bit of. Just little by little. Don't you just feel like everything's just so fast these days in our culture that you just find you don't have time to do these slower things, and you just grab a plastic bag of vegetables from a shop in a trolley, masses in a trolley. So just the idea of permaculture and Green in the Desert just sounds brilliant. I've actually written them down, and I'll look into those.
You're gonna love it.
And I'll put some links into the film description below.
What you said there is so beautiful, right? I mean, how long have you been? Did it take for you to do these YouTube channel? I've known your work for a number of years, and when you first started making videos, It wasn't an instant overnight, suddenly there was 20,000 views. That's something that takes time. The fact that at Green in the Desert, it took them 10 years before they opened up their doors. Now, I've been
Yeah,
working on Impact 9 years, and I always feel like I'm so far behind where I want to be. And I know that
really.
this is possible. And you have those like lower days, and then you realize for 10 years, they didn't even open their doors.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how many videos you've put up over the years, and how many have gone well or badly, and ones that I don't, but it wasn't that thing where it takes that little by little, and it takes that time, and things don't have to happen really fast.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful reminder.
Yeah, it is. And when you see people becoming famous, they're like, yeah, no, I didn't just become famous. There was 10 years of hard work before that.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. But I'm actually like, it's interesting that you mentioned the YouTube channel, because as I've got older, I've moved more towards like, not just, I used to interview loads of elite athletes on the channel, like just elite athletes, and they end up saying the same things really, like, oh, I did a race, yay, I train all day, and blah, 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 and that's great and that's brilliant for them. But as I've got older, I've become much more interested in the conservation side of things, like the ethical side of things, and now I'm talking much more to people like you who are setting up amazing races. Like I'm going to be talking to an event director who has managed to have a 75% female participation in some of her ultras.
Wow.
I'm talking to people who are writing books. I'm talking to people who are interested in like the conservation side of things, because I think running and hiking and all those outdoor sports go really, really hand in hand with conservation and ethical practices. And I just think that everybody who enjoys the outdoors in that way needs to think more about the communities that are supporting
Absolutely.
that, and also the environment that's supporting that. So yeah, so that's why I was really excited to chat with you today. But also we haven't covered the Everest race as well.
Yes, of course.
We'll actually cover the races in a minute. So I'm just we can, trail running is trail running, and it's an amazing view anywhere, and it's like, oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing for me about this is all the community projects that you're doing. So yeah, how did the Everest Base Camp and Street Child come about?
Well, Street Child, I've always said are the sort of godfathers of what Impact does. And, they created the race in Sierra Leone, which has now been going 10, 12 years. And, early on, we learned so much from what they did, and we wanted to take what they'd done and just like, cool, how can we move this to more communities and support more and innovate on it? And then Mark, who was their race director, he worked with Impact for quite a few years, and then through the pandemic, he's gone back to Street Child, and we're like, right, what can we do together, because we love working together. And so he's now leading up the challenges at Street Child, and we're like, okay, cool, let's do Everest Base Camp. How do we do it differently? How do we do it in a way that is super engaging and has a bigger impact than just during the base camp? So Street Child has some amazing projects, and we worked with Street Child in the first 2-3 years of the Nepal race as well. And so we know the office really well, and we're like, okay, cool, we can do some visits and tie people into the impact of Street Child within Nepal, and Street Child of Nepal in particular. And then actually on the track, they support some schools up in Everest region. So we'll be able to tie in a visit to one of those schools along the way, which I think is just really great. And you've got 2 acclimatization days anyway, so you may as well use them for good, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a collaboration that's happened this year, and hopefully it'll be an annual event with them, maybe even a couple every year. Do a spring and an autumn track. And it's just sort of, we wanted to build out, we've got the impact races, but as you said, there's a huge amount of work that goes into each one of them, and to get the that level of intimacy to the community project takes a lot of time. It takes time to build that trust. It takes time to do it right. Like, I get more stressed about, are we having a positive impact, than the race bit. The race bit to me is not the hard part, funnily enough. It's, are we, because there's no point, otherwise we're just doing a marathon. That's fine, but that's not what this is for. So I get very stressed on those side of things. So when we wanted to do with the Global Impact Challenge, we say, right, what are the, there's ones that we can be involved in and create. So Street Child, Everest, that's great. But what are the other organizations that are doing a really good job at combining the challenge, the travel, and impact into one element? And let's start collaborating on those and putting them together. And part of it is to create more opportunities. If you can't come to Guatemala this year in March, you can't come to Guatemala this year, but maybe you could do something else, or you want to do something else, but that. So we wanted to give more opportunity without necessarily, if we continue to build as many races as we were doing before the pandemic, I'd love to get back to doing that. But it's been a hard slog these last 3 years to move it. So, we've got a few more of those in the works, ones that don't. And also, I get a lot of people saying, but I'm not a runner. Okay, cool. We'll do a track. I'm not a runner. Okay, cool. We can do other things. So I wanted to build out from just running.
Yeah, or could they do the same route as the runners, but just maybe start an hour or two earlier, and then have all the runners come past, to say hi, and there's groups of trackers, that might be a way of combining.
We've had that before, and it's really, really good. And certainly, I always think with our cutoff times, which is as generous as we could possibly make them, you can always trek the half marathon route. Always, it's always possible, and we want to make that possible, because it's so special. And if someone comes to the whole week and is inspired by what we do, just because they struggle to run doesn't mean they shouldn't be out there and involved. And even the good runners that come on our trips, and we have a real mix of abilities. And we have people who signed up for the 10K and then are just so inspired by everybody else in the group. They're running the 42K at the weekend, and we pretty much no one ever downgrades. They all always upgrades. It's like, Nick, can I do this? But we've got eyes on you. Go out there, enjoy it. Yeah, and we make the route safe. So there's spots where we go. Yeah, look, if you're really struggling, you're good now. You can either carry on a walking pace and we've got you, or if we don't want to put people in a position where we're not meant to be a sufferfest. We're not trying to be the most grueling foot race on earth. We're not a ultra marathon. Our races are tough. These routes are difficult. That Guatemala route, whoosh! That's you climb up a live volcano. You're running across lava fields. You don't get it's amazing. But if it's not hot, it's windy. If it's not windy, it's hot. But it's just, you cannot be in that place in any other way. And you're there in the lava field looking up at a volcano, and you don't care about your time right then. You just want to keep going. You want that day to kind of last forever and also end immediately. It's that. But in that, you get that spirit of togetherness, and you get that spirit of unity. And when you say about meeting on the course, we even set the 42Kers set off first. Then the 21Kers will set off about 2.5 hours after. So that because we normally do loops or out and backs and these kind of things, so that the energy is about the connectivity on the course. If I do a point to point 42 kilometer, I've missed the opportunity to connect people through running, because the fastest guys will be in the distance. Yeah, whereas this way, the fastest guy can be helped by the 10Kers who are and that's what makes the event. It's that. And I've had to be strong on that at times. I've had to be strong on those values, because it's so easy to go with the other option of just cool, it's a running event. It's just a running race. Just put on a normal running race. But if you don't think about the energy on the course, then again, it can be a great race. It can be a good race, but it's not an impact race. Yeah. If that makes sense, you've got to know what makes your event special.
Yeah, it's just a normal race then. Yeah.
Which are great, and I love normal races. Don't get me wrong. I love normal races. I'm going for the Great North Run in September. I'm running the Great North Run. I haven't done a half marathon on road for ages now, so I'm excited for that. So, when I say normal events, I don't say it in a derogatory way. I want to make that clear. It's just we set out to do these events that were just truly different, and every single person crosses the finishing line. The finishing line was hand stitched by an indigenous tailor in Guatemala, and it comes to us with all our races, and we make sure every single person runs through it, not just the winner. And we make sure there's huge love for every single finisher, and just because of the nature of where we are, you're in your remote desert. When the first person on the Jordan race comes through, they get one person clapping them in. When the last person, they've got 50 people. Exactly. It's completely the other way around.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, that's the way it should be. Anyone can just run really, really, really fast. The biggest challenge is someone who's had to put in that real effort and go really slowly around. The races sound awesome as well. And that's and you mentioned before that they're not timed. They're just go out and do it. It sounds a bit like they're not a race. You could just call it.
Not really.
You could call it a run, or just a run or a hike, run/hike. And it might get even more people coming.
Well, this is it. There was a time, and this is I don't know how to tell this story. It was we were doing a race in Kenya, and with Kenya there are a lot of regulations around road races for lots of obvious reasons, from WADA, and making sure that there needs to be any race needs to have a WADA representative, because there have been huge issues with doping in Kenyan training camps and these things. So it is complex, but our races isn't that. And so I was summoned to the Athletics Kenya office, and got on a 6-hour overnight bus back to Nairobi, sat down for 3 hours as they sort of pushed and cajoled, and it was a really, really tiring meeting of them basically questioning everything. And I'm like, and I got to the end, I was like, but the thing is that this isn't competitive. And I've been saying this for 3 hours, but I don't know what and at one point they went, so it's a fun run. I went, yeah, it's a fun run.
Yeah.
It's a fun run.
Oh, it's a fun run.
Oh, just put that on the t-shirts.
Yeah.
So for one race once, to make sure that we didn't end up having to go through all of the $10,000 worth of doping, because we weren't. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't competitive. There was no winner. Like, it's not. Anyway, this is actually a traumatic moment. I'm having to relive it. It was a difficult 3 hours. My Greek personality was coming through, but and I was just there saying, and then they said, fine. So we got these Kenya Impact Fun Run t-shirts. Like, it just rebranded my whole organization.
But you have to bend a little and be flexible, as you said.
We know what our goal is. Our goal is to create an impact with the events. And if that means that the t-shirts say Fun Run, they say Fun Run. And we can give the international runners a marathon t-shirt at the end, secretly at the airport. And I don't know,
Yeah.
You find your ways to make things happen, because, everyone's got their own motives and their own targets to hit and everything like that. So you have to be careful on that. That's the challenge. For sure.
Yeah, and so what you mentioned, you've got your own challenges and there's your own targets to hit. But do you have any personal targets in your own running life? Like, are you wanting to run one of your own marathons, or have you got your eyes on an ultra or a fun run? Like, are you mainly just focused on this as your business, or are you also working towards any running goals yourself?
It's a great question. Well, I work as an ambassador for Salomon, so I have to be getting out there and doing runs and trail races anyway. And I do find it quite crazy, because the other ambassadors are incredible, runners. Kurt Hardwick, Tom Waite, Lauren Gregory. These guys are winning races, and I'm not that. I'm not that. And I've always felt this gentle bit of insecurity about that. And one of the things is that when I first set up Impact, I was obsessed with running races and running fast. And I would normally be competitive, top 10% of any race. I'm not winning it, but I'm clocking some decent times. And part of that was that I was in this world where, before I started Impact, you've got a well-paying job and you're seeking that challenge. When I started Impact, I couldn't think of a bigger challenge than how on earth can I make this work? Yeah. And so for me, the motivation to push myself super hard really focused on Impact and not on my running. And I still I've still done races, but the idea of doing a full training block, and that's kind of what I'm doing. So I was approached by Newcastle University, where I'm an alumni, because of what I've done with Impact. They wanted me to come and run the Great North Run as a sort of ambassador for the university this year. And they went, you know what? I wanna do a proper training block to do a fast half. Like, everyone I know is doing ultras right now. But it's just something about it. Just, okay, hold on. Can I get back into doing that fast running? So that's what I'm focused on at the moment. And then next year, I've done a lot of days where I've done ultra distance, but I've actually never done an ultra race, because when I'm scouting a route, all of that, I've done 60, 70 Ks, no problem. Well, not many problems, but it's no problem. It's a total lie. But the idea of actually racing and competing in ultra, again, yeah. So I'm going to just sort of take this year to focus on speed and on half, and then, maybe. But every time I go to Nepal, I'm being bugged to run. There's a 100-kilometer race that goes around the whole Kathmandu Valley, which is wild, and there's leopards and all sorts. And the team that organised that are also sort of the race directors for our event. So every year when I get to Nepal, they're like, Nick, come on,
do this.
Yeah. So if I'm feeling good after the half, then maybe I'll do a zero training 100K around Kathmandu Bowl.
Why
Just
not?
do it.
Take a pair of hiking poles and you'll get round.
That helps with the leopards as well.
Yes. Yeah, that helps fend them off. And so you said you weren't afraid of difficult questions. I don't think this is that difficult a question, but just in today's sort of climate of conservation and, or like I'm in the Green Runners, and especially we see people like Jasmine Paris and Damien Hall just being utterly bashed for getting a plane over to America for a race. How do you sort of negotiate that flying aspect of your good works and your amazing races? Do you help people to sort of work out how they might offset their flying, or like how does that sit in your mind?
So there's a number of different levels to that, and you know, Nina from Green Runners came to our Nepal race last year, and we had really good chats about it, and that the concept of your sort of your shadow rather than your footprint. And I love what the Green Runners is doing and how they're messaging that. And yeah, Damo and Jasmine going out to do one race a year, and I guess with impact, it's something where it's really considered from our perspective. There's a number of different ways that we think about it, but one of us is that if you're going to fly out for a race, let's make it have an impact in the community and people. You know, that realistic element of cool. Maybe it's one flight a year to a race. That's the rule that some of the guys within Green Runners have put in. Great. And we did a race in Scotland where we had people cycling up to it and all of this. Wow. And we worked with Trees Not Teas and the Future Forests. And that was really special. You know, and in that, I also realized like just how powerful it is to get a group of people to see things differently. So we do offset in country in each location. For instance, working with with Green in the Desert, back to them. We're working on a permaculture farm this year for our Nepal race, and so what we're trying to do is have in country. Can we have a truly powerful impact project that, and nearly every project we do now focuses on environmental causes in the country. So what can we catalyze through that? What can we make possible through that? Then we work with Stand for Trees, which is a US organization. Prince EA did an amazing video for them called Sorry Future Generations a little while ago. So we've got that. We're just building it out. So it's now going to be part of our website so that, straight away you can tap in. I'm doing this flight and you can work with them straight away using the Red Plus methodology. And it is about getting people to be more conscious and not fly. I do feel like, and I feel this passionately, and I don't normally say this out loud because I know that certain organizations that are large have amazing impact in the trail running community to get more people running. But if you're going to fly to a race, let's have an impact in that community that's truly positive. Let's elevate things. Let's make sure we're doing more and come out for the whole week. Hopefully extend so you're out there longer, so that this event has you're out there longer. So there's a lot of different ways that I think about it, but it's something that can't get away from. And so I'm just trying to make these events so special that when people come out, it's worth that 1 week of their life. It's worth that flight, and it elevates more. But you can't get away from chatting about it. And we try and do everything in country when it comes to our food, for instance. We try and make as much sourced from within 5 miles of the campsite as possible, partly for economic reasons, so that we're putting more money into the community we are, but also because we want that food to tell a story. So there's lots of different levels of how we think about it. And the other major thing we've done is that we're now working with people in each of the countries to be our teams all around. So actually this year, for Nepal and Jordan, I was the only team member who went to both. So we're lowering, I was the only British team member at the Nepal race. The Nepal team took care of everything else. So I think, again, for economic reasons, that makes a lot of sense because we're actually starting to employ and have a bigger impact because we're creating jobs in countries where there's usually out-migration. But also, it helps us to offset, to lower our actual impact as a team. We don't fly videographers across. We work with the Jordan this year. We worked alongside Invictus with 4 videographers actually there for in Jordan. And again, it fits our values, but it also helps us really reduce as an organization our own impact. So it's really just the people coming over to the races where we need to encourage more offsetting with good organizations, because again, it's easy to offset badly.
Yeah, yeah, and advising them where to offset sounds like a great idea. It sounds absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I now want to come and do one of the races.
You have to. You have
I
to.
know, yeah. I've got a 3-year-old, so it might be some years before I can leave him for that amount of time. But if anybody else is thinking about doing one
Yeah.
of the races, certainly Lloyd on the live chat says no questions, but just want to say these sound awesome, Nick.
Thanks, Lloyd.
So yeah, it's going down well. So how, if anybody is interested in doing one of these races, how would they follow you? How would they find out more?
So it's easy to find us, just Impact Marathon, impactmarathon.com. My Instagram's NJ Kershaw. So you can, I post a lot obviously about Impact there, and Impact Marathon Instagram account where all our information is. If they sign up to the newsletter, then they'll find, we'll be updating all the way through the year. Currently, registrations are open for Nepal, for Jordan. We're about to open up for Guatemala for 2025. And we have a new location that we haven't announced yet, that hopefully we'll be announcing later in the month. So stay tuned for that. It's a brand new location for us. We're just clarifying a few things. You constantly think, okay, we're ready to go. And then you go, oh, no, hold on. Yeah, we've got to check that out before we do. I've launched before with not as much information as you possibly need. And then you find that you're kind of chasing the year a bit. So we're trying to make sure that we're fully set on everything before we launch it. So excited to share that though.
Awesome. Oh, that sounds great. Well, that's a definite good reason to follow you on Instagram to find out what that race is. So yeah, we'll just do a quick shout out to sponsors before our final goodbye.
Yes.
So we'll just shout out to Naak Sports Nutrition. Thank you for making this podcast happen, because it's been really fantastic talking to Nick about all these races. And if you would like to get some Naak Sports Nutrition to maybe go and do one of Nick's races, you can test them out with my code WildRunning for 15% off at uk.naak.com. So thank you so much, Nick. It has been utterly brilliant chatting to you. I'm so glad to have met you via Skype, the old-fashioned way. And I really hope that this talk inspires many, many more people to look at the Impact Marathon, the marathon series. So thank you very much, Nick.
Thanks, Claire. It's been brilliant.
Awesome. Goodbye, everyone.
All right.